Well, it's time now for our weekly science chat, and we begin with a question. Could this ever become reality?
Apes do not want war.
Yes, we're talking Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which has some wondering whether the plot foreshadows a not too distant future. AUT's Applied Ecology Institute Director, Professor Steve Pointing, joins us live. Could it ever happen?
That's a big question, isn't it? There's a lot of things to consider, and probably the first of those is, could apes ever evolve intelligence to rival humans? And a very interesting study released just this week from the US suggests that certainly they have a mechanism to evolve intelligence. What this study did was look at the intelligence of 99 chimpanzees, all of whom were related. They ranged from siblings all the way up to third, fourth and fifth cousins. And all these chimps were given a range of cognitive tasks to measure their intelligence. And what emerged was a very strong correlation between intelligence and relatedness. So there was a genetic basis for this. And then, hot on the heels of that, a British study released findings this week to show that a gene which encodes social behaviour in humans has a very specific variant that's found only in those chimps with the higher intelligence. So we do have this evidence that intelligent behaviour can evolve in chimps, at least.
Now, on the downside, simian flu's a genuine danger.
Well, yeah, in the movie, of course, simian flu wipes out or decimates a large part of the human population, allowing the apes to take over. But of course, this is a reality already. HIV, the virus which causes AIDS, is a disease which made the leap from apes in Africa through to humans several decades ago. And many would argue that without modern medicine, epidemiology and diagnosis, that and other diseases could be catastrophic. You only have to look at 1918 and the Spanish flu, which killed more people than died in the entire of World War I, for example, to see that diseases like that could indeed decimate populations.
I think we've had the simian flu here on First Line over the last couple of weeks. How realistic is it to think that apes could develop a complex society like we've seen in the movie?
Well, it is a movie. I mean, let's face it, it is just a movie.
A good movie, it sounds like.
Yes, it looks like a great movie. In the movie, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, gibbons all live together and form this ape society. But of course, we have to remember these are different species. And if you then take a step back and look at humans, we're one species and we find it hard enough to get on this planet. That's one aspect that might be a bit hard to understand. But I'm a geneticist. And so the way I like to look at it is this, that there are some apes, such as chimpanzees and bonobos, that are actually more related to humans than they are to, say, gorillas. So I wonder if we couldn't convince them to fight on our side and sort of even things up a bit. So, yeah, who knows?
There's been a lot of teaching of language to gorillas in particular, hasn't there, and to chimpanzees. Dian Fossey, was it? So it has happened, hasn't it, that they've been able to communicate?
Yes, gorillas and indeed chimpanzees have all learned sign language. What is, of course, missing is the physiological basis for vocalization. So, of course, talking chimpanzees, as you see in the movie, is probably rather far-fetched. But certainly communication and unintelligent communication is something that's been demonstrated several times.
Do you think that can be progressed further and they will develop an even greater language?
Well, it's interesting. I think that the capacity to learn is certainly there. But of course, it depends how you define that level of intelligence. I think interaction driven by social needs, driven by food, is one thing, but complex communication is something else.
It's fascinating. Thank you very much, Steve Pointing, for coming in this morning,
pleasure.
talking Planet of the Apes.